This video is a review of the weekly payroll spreadsheet and how to enter the timesheet information into it and how to send it and get it ready to send to the accountant at the end of the pay week so that the accountant can process the payroll and the paychecks and the payroll reports. Um, Payroll starts on Wednesdays and ends on Tuesdays. The payroll reports are located in Google Drive. We're going to open up this week's, and we're going to be entering information from back in February. So we'll be adding some employees and removing some employees and changing hourly rates, and we'll be going through this whole spreadsheet and to how it works. One of the first things you'll see here is it says only the yellow colored boxes can be changed. That is because under tools here and protect documents, this sheet is protected, as are all of the other sheets. If you put your mouse cursor over this spot right here and push down the left mouse button, you can move this over. Sometimes you'll open it up, it'll be way over here, and you'll go, where are your days sheets? And which there's always a arrow over here to get over there, but this thing also adjusts. Also, there's a problem with this one right off the bat, and that is that the zoom is zoomed way in more than normal. I normally have it at 40. So we have that corrected, and normally we have this frozen. You can see how the whole page moves, even all the way up to row 1. I like to click on this box here and go up to Window and hit Freeze. Actually, what I like to do first is go up to right there and then hit Freeze, and then this all stays up here and the rest of the window moves. This is the summary sheet that we're on, SUMM. It has the employees' names, and it has a summary of how many hours they worked on each day. This information, like Wednesday, comes from this Wednesday sheet. Whatever information, say, is put in for Sean Arnold, it adds up. It basically takes this total right here and puts it over here for us, so we can look at the whole week, the whole time for employees on one sheet. Up here are the different job names. If you want to change job names, you just go up here and put in the job name. Like this says, only the yellow colored boxes can be changed. We have all these different boxes that we can add job names to. And which these are all carried over to the day timesheets. Whatever gets changed over here, if this got changed to yes, the yes job, it would be changed on this page. You go back here and undo that. Now, one thing that you'll notice is that I said that there's other areas to put more job names in here, all the way over to the AO column. But on the actual day sheets, you'll see it stops at T. These between T and AO, they're hidden just because we haven't had that many jobs going on at one time here in the last few years. But the way that you would unhide them is you would need to go over here to Tools, Protect Documents. You'd have to unprotect the sheet. That would be the first thing that you would have to do, because with the sheet protected, which it is, I just re-protected it, with the sheet protected, you can't do anything. It doesn't show you what to do. Um, so you go over here to Tools, Protect Document, Undo Protect Sheet, and now you can hit Show, and it shows the rest of these columns. So if you wanted to add, say you needed 3 more spots for job names, 1, 2, 3, you could add those. Not sure you, there seems to be a problem with you because the formula isn't showing up there. There should be a formula where it's getting the information. T, U, let's fix that. We'll just do that. So now U. Okay, so if you wanted to, like, say, add 3 jobs, you could unhide that, and then you could go and back over here and rehide it. You would want to go back up to Tools and protect the sheet and press OK. We never put a password in that protect sheet thing, but that's how you would do that. So let's go in here and undo what we just did. We go to Tools, Protect Document Sheet. We're going to go over here and show all these again. Go over here and right click and hide all of these again, and go back up to Tools, Protect Document Sheet, and like I said, we never put a password in there because we and you would have to do that. You would have to do that if you added jobs. You would have to do that on every day. You would have to do that on every day of the week. So that's that. Let's see. So like I said, this is where you add the jobs. This is where employees' names go. The employees' names, whatever employee name you put in here, will show up over here and over here on the separate day sheets. So if I put a name in here, John, Will, you'll see it now shows up on this sheet, in this sheet, and every other sheet. And okay, let's see, the next thing to go over. Alright, this sucks. What the hell's going on here with this? Okay. Okay, so let's see, we went over the times, the job names. We went over where the employee names go. We went over the different day sheets. Again, on the day sheets, only the yellow colored boxes will be where you put information in. All these other boxes are protected. The only area you can put information would be in the yellow areas. And these pages here also have come unfrozen for some reason, so I'm going to fix them. I like to go right up to there, go up to window and hit freeze, and that way that slides that way and that slides that way, and the names stay there. If you don't do that, it's probably just a personal preference thing. It's just the way that I like to have it. And I don't know why, but every once in a while they unfreeze and the zoom factor gets weirded out, and you have to go in here and reset this stuff up. You'll see on these sheets that the day and the date shows up here for each day. Okay. There is another tab down here, employee list, which basically just sticks the employees' names over on this sheet on something that was used in the past or something. I'm not sure. And then this job day, this is a sheet that it provides information for this little box here. All of this information here, if I remember right, could be wrong. Looks like I'm wrong. Maybe it's this box here. I'm not even sure. I'm not sure what this box does anymore. It's something that we used to use in the past. It's something that we really don't need to worry about, but I don't want to delete it because it may have something to do with this stuff down here, which occasionally is looked at, but very seldom. Let's see. So we went over the summary sheet, and the different day sheets. We have our weekly sheet. This sheet is used. This is the sheet that one of the sheets that is sent to the accountant at the end of on Wednesdays at the end of the pay period week, so that they can prepare the payroll. And we'll get more into this in a little bit. Also, this sheet is sent. This sheet, there's nothing that we have to do. It's just information that's all calculated, pre-calculated through formulas for the accountant. So there's no information that we have to add in here whatsoever. There is information that we have to add in here, and again, it's this yellow background areas are the only areas that we can add information. All the rest of it is automatically put in here from other sheets. Okay, so let's get started and let's put in some times. As I said previously, we're going to be using timesheet pay period from February the 13th through February the 19th of 2019, and I have scanned those timesheets. They're all down here, and we'll be using the information that is on them to create the payroll for that week. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to go up here and we want to put in the start date of the week, which is 2/13/2019, and it automatically puts the different dates of the week on this row here for each day, and then that information is put on each tab, each week tab or day tab. So that's done. Then the next thing that's very important to is to go up here and save it. Say save as, not save as. You want to save it as the week that you're working on. So it's week 2/13/19, through 2/19/19, and I'm just going to put practice behind this because this week's payroll was completed back in February. Obviously we're now in June, and we want to hit save. It's very important that once you save the file with the right name and you don't save it over the old file. You don't start entering information for the new week on last week's and forget to save the date, save the name of the file. So what I always do is I go in here and I put the date in, and the first thing I do next is go in and hit save as and save it as these dates through here, 2/13 through 2/19. So now that that is done, as you can see, there's already time filled in here. We need a blank timesheet. We need a blank weekly payroll spreadsheet so we can enter the information for this week. So the way that we get a blank one is we go in here to the day tabs. We're going to start with Wednesday. We're going to go all the way over to the left and all the way up. We're going to hold down our mouse button, our left mouse button, and move over to the right and all the way down to under the last name. And we're going to hit backspace, and that will take all the time out. And then what I do is I come over here to this box and I right click and I hit copy. And then I go to the next day and I make sure I'm all the way over to the left and all the way up, and I right click and I hit paste. All the way over to the left and all the way up, right click, paste, and I do that for each day. There was no time for Sunday. Click paste, all the way over and up, paste. So that's removed all the time for all the days that were on this from a previous week. And the way that can be verified is you go over to your sum sheet before you start putting time in. You go over to your sum sheet and you make sure that everything's at 0. Then you hit save. Now you have a blank spreadsheet to work with that we can start entering information. As I stated earlier, the first day of the pay week is on Wednesday, so we'll do Wednesday's time first. We have David Bowman working at American Stairs. He worked from 10 to 3. Normally you'll have to write it in here. For some reason it wasn't written on this one, but 10 to 3 is 5 hours, and the guys always take a half an hour lunch. Unless they write 0 in here, they always take a half an hour lunch. So 10 to 3 is 5 minus a half an hour would be 4.5 hours. But we have a problem, as American Stairs is not up here, so we need to add a job name, and we're going to put American Stairs right here. American Stairs. So we now have the American Stairs job added, and it adds it to every day of the week in the K row. And we said David. Scroll all the way over to here to American Stairs, and we said David had 4.5 hours, 4.5. Whoops. And back to Wednesday. You see we have 2 timesheets. We had Dave, then we have Stewart Jet Center. We have Arasto, Ruben, Katie, Chris, and Theo at sorry, where was it? Stewart Jet W2. So that's Hangar W2B. Scroll over there, and we had Arasto, Ruben, and Katie. So we have Arasto, 6.5 hours. Arasto, Ruben, and Katie. Well, guess what? Katie's not shown on this list, so we're going to need to add Katie. So we go over here, and we're not going to worry about getting this in alphabetical order at this time. It is right now. Um, but we're going to put Katie right in here. Katie's last name is Kepler. When you add a person in here, the next thing you want to do is go over to the weekly sheet, the WKLY sheet, and you're going to, because you can see that his there's no rate of pay, so we'll put in his rate of pay, say it was $14. And back over here we had Katie had, just going to copy that, Katie had 6.5 hours, and we had Chris and Theo with 6.5 hours. Theo. Now that Chris is not Chris M, it's Chris Stewart, so we'll need to add Chris Stewart back in here. Chris Stewart. Go over here to the weekly sheet. Put in Chris's pay rate. And he worked 6.5 hours, and the last one we had was Nick, I believe 4.5 hours. Nick Bickman, 4.5. And that is everything for Wednesday. So then we review the Wednesday day tab, and we see that we have quite a few employees with 0 hours, so we're going to want to figure out why that happened. That's something that we need to get with the guys on. And I believe it rained that day is why, if I remember right. Obviously we're in June now, this was back in February. But when you see zeros on here, you're going to want to find out why these guys don't have time. Are you missing a timesheet? Did they not work? Did it rain? What was the situation? Because obviously everybody normally works every day. Okay, so Wednesday's done, and if we go back over to the sum sheet, we'll see that these times we're stuck in here. Now I am questioning why David, okay, it's because David worked on that other job 4.5 hours by himself. And you also see on this sheet the zeros, they're in red. They're in red, so they're like they stand out. It's like, hey, why do these people have 0 hours? Okay, so the next day is Thursday. We can close Wednesday. These timesheets normally they're in your hand on paper. I've scanned them so that they could be looked at while I'm doing this video, so you can see what I was seeing. Next day is Thursday, and we have Ocean Breeze, and now there was different jobs at Ocean Breeze. I happen to know that this was Ocean Breeze lots 220 through 234, this one right here. Sometimes if especially at Ocean Breeze there's a lot of different lots, you have to make sure that they're giving you the information for the correct lots. So we have Esteban, Nick, David, and Matt with 8 hours. Esteban, David, Nick, and Matt. Esteban, David, Nick, and Matt. That was handy. Fred, Ken Martin, and Leslie. Ken Martin and Leslie. There's no Fred on here, so we need to add Fred. Fred Hunter. So we add Fred on the sum sheet. We go over to the weekly sheet and look and see if his pay rate is correct. I believe his pay rate was 10. And now we can go back over here and put his time in. we did Ken and Leslie. We have Arasto, Theo, and Chris. Arasto, Theo, and Chris. We have Kenny Unsel with 3 and Anthony with 5.5. Kenny Unsel with 3 and Anthony with 5.5. We need to go add Anthony. His pay rate, if I remember right, was 10. Let's see, we did Kenny Unsel. We have KJ and Rick and Reggie with 8. KJ, Rick, and Reggie. There's Reggie. There's Rick. So we need to add KJ and we need to add J. Normally there's not this many people to put in here, and normally you would want to put the person's whole name in there so the accountant knew who you were talking about. But for this video I'm just going to put KJ. The guy's name was Kenneth Martin Jr. He no longer works with us. And we had J Keller. We go over here and put in some pay rates. Back to Thursday. They each had 8 hours if I remember right. Let's see, KJ and J, and then we had Cooney, who is Stephen Marcel. Okay, we have a lot of guys here. Let's make sure we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. We have 17. So we have 15 at 8 hours. 15 times 8 is 120, 123, 128 and a half if we did this right. 128 and a half. It totals all your hours up for the job down here at the bottom. Sometimes if it's a lot of employees, it's a good way to double check, go down, add up however many guys there is and how many hours, and see if it all adds up right. Okay, so that's the first timesheet of Thursday. Next we have Ivany. We have Kenny Unsel and Anthony, 5 and 2.5 for Ivany. Kenny Unsel, 5, and Anthony 2.5. The next timesheet for Thursday is Lawnwood. We have Ruben and Katie at 8.5. Scroll back over here. There's Lawnwood. We had Ruben and Katie, 8.5. Copy, Ruben, paste. So that's the end of the Thursday timesheets. We had 3 of them. Let's see what we ended up here. Sean has 0. Sean wasn't working for us then, so that's good. Adam wasn't working for us then. Leroy was working for us then. He has 0. We would need to find out, because we didn't see on the timesheet. Sometimes they write it on the timesheets, like say Leroy, no work, or you may say Leroy, see Leroy's name in here. Normally these are printed out, not handwritten. See Leroy's name in here and it'll be crossed out and they'll put no work or something, but not always. Not always. Sometimes it's a big puzzle. So we would need to find out, if I remember right, Leroy was out sick or something. Chris M wasn't working for us then. So everybody has time except for Leroy, and like I said, I'm pretty sure he was sick. So Thursday's time is good. As we can see, that was all put in here. same people that don't have time or the same people who didn't have time on the Thursday day tab. Now over here on this weekly tab, it keeps track of the hours as they're being added up. Like you see, Nick has a total of 12.5 hours. Whatever amount is here and here is going to be put on this spreadsheet, on this sheet, the weekly tab, that is sent to the accountant. So it shows everybody's time, what they have for the week. And as you go through the different days and put information in, these totals will change. So now on to Friday. Friday we have 5 timesheets. The first timesheet we have is Noble Shoes, which Noble Shoes is not shown up here, so we'll need to find a spot to put Noble. We want to find a spot where hopefully where we're not going to where we definitely have not put any time on a job, which a good way to go down and find that out is right down here. If there's 0 here, or no amount shown or 0 in here, that means that tab has not been used yet. So what we'll do is we're going to use this OB lots 422, 432. Actually, let's use this one right here, OB 243, etc., and put in Noble Shoes. Put that in there, and now that's going to show up on every day, but we're working on Friday. So we scroll over here, and David, we said, had 2 hours at Noble Shoes. We have Ivany, we have Kenny and Anthony with 8 hours. Whoops. Next we have this is Ocean Breeze lots 220, etc. We have Matt, Chris, Nick, and Leslie with 8. Matt, Chris, Nick, and Leslie. Ocean Breeze 220. Matt, Chris, Nick, and Leslie. Matt, Chris, Nick, and Matt. Okay, slow down. Matt, Chris, Nick, and Leslie. Esteban, Theo, Rick, and Reggie with 8 hours. Esteban, Rick, Reggie, and who else? Theo. And Esteban, Theo, Rick, Reggie. Cooney, Katie, and Ruben with 8. Ruben, Cooney, Katie, and David had 5. So that's a lot of guys again. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys. 11 times 8 is 88, and 5 is 93 hours. Okay, so we got that right. The next timesheet is Stuart Jet W2. We have Arasto, Ken, and KJ with 6. Arasto, Ken, and KJ with 6. Fred with 6. Jay with 2 and David with 1. Whoops. Jay with 2, David with 1. Okay. The next timesheet is Bruner. just makes no sense. Jay worked from 8 to 10 there. Oh, he didn't work here at all. That's probably all he worked. Jay was having a lot of problems back then. Okay, so we have 2 hours at Bruner, Arasto, Ken, KJ, and Fred at Bruner. Arasto, Ken, KJ, and Fred. Okay, that's the last of the timesheets. Nothing else written on that one. See what we came up with. That's okay. That's okay. Leroy was still out sick. Chris M., he didn't work for us then. Jay, that's all he worked that day, so that's all good. I'd like to hit save. In case something happens, we don't lose all the information that we put in there if the power goes out. There is an automatic save function with this spreadsheet program with Open Office where it does save it every few minutes, so you wouldn't lose everything. But the next day is Saturday. Let's see, Friday we're done with. Saturday we have 3 timesheets. Ocean Breeze Trailers, lots 220. Rosto, Ken, Esteban, and Theo. Saturday, Rosto, 8 hours. Copy. Rosto, Ken, KJ, and Theo. Is that what it was? Rosto, Chris, Rosto, Chris, Esteban, Theo. Rosto, Chris. Rosto, Chris, Esteban, Theo. Okay. Rick, Katie, and Fred. So Rick and Fred. And Katie had 8.5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it's always a good thing to go back with the timesheets in your hand after you enter all the information and go back through and just make sure that you have everybody on the correct jobs. You'll never be entering this many days at one time. You might be entering 2 days at one time, but like Wednesday's timesheets, they get entered on Thursday morning. They're put in the box Wednesday afternoon, Thursday morning. You get in, you put them in to the spreadsheet on Thursday. You put Wednesday's timesheets on Thursday, Thursday's timesheets on Friday. Friday and Saturday's timesheets usually go in on Monday. Monday's timesheets on Tuesday, and Tuesday's timesheets go in on Wednesday. Wednesday's the day that the payroll weekly sheets is completed, and the payroll is sent over to the accountant. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Like say you're doing payroll on Wednesday or on Thursday for Wednesday. When you get the sheets done, you just go back and look at them and make sure you've got it right. Double check. Okay, we did Saturday. Did we do all Saturday? No, we didn't. Stuart Jet, we have Ruben and Reggie, 2 hours. Ruben, 2. Reggie, 2. And Noble Shoes, Ruben and Reggie, 6. Oops, Ruben and Reggie. 6 and 6. Okay, hit save. Next is Monday. It's all Saturdays, right? What I didn't do was check this. Okay, looks good. Monday, close Saturday. Monday, we have 3 days. First is Ivany. We have Kenny, Ruben, and Katie with 8.5 hours. Kenny, Ruben, and Katie. Kenny Unsel. Ruben and Katie. Kenny, Ruben, Katie. Rick and Theo. Theo and Rick. 2, 3, 4, 5 guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys. Kenny, Ruben, Katie, Rick, and Theo. Kenny, Ruben, Rick, Theo, and Katie. Okay. Next timesheet is for Stuart Jett. Can you see this time wasn't filled in? And you can see here Fred, no. Like Fred did not work on that job or did not work that day. But we have 8 hours. 7 to 3:30 is 8.5 minus a half is 8 hours. And you're going to want to always, sometimes the guys fill these times in themselves, and seems like about half the time they have it wrong. They'll either have not enough hours or too many hours. And you know, from 7 to 8 is 1 hour, 8 to 9, 8 to 9 is another hour, 7 to 12 is 5 hours, 7 to 3:30 is 8 hours, and I already spoke about the lunch. Normally they take a half an hour lunch unless there's a zero there. A half an hour is taken out of their time. So anyway, back to Stuart Jett. We have Rosto, Ken, KJ. Rosto, Ken, and KJ 8 hours. Rosto, Ken, and KJ with 8 hours. Then we had Leroy and David. Leroy and David. So 5 guys, 40 hours. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys. Fred was 0. The next timesheet, see Fred's over here, is Ocean Breeze. The lots 220 lots. We have Matt, Chris, and Esteban with 8. Matt, Esteban, Chris with 8. We have Reggie and Nick. Reggie and Nick. We have, see no work, someone wrote here for Jay. We have Leslie and Fred with 8. Cooney with 6.5. Leslie and Fred with 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys with 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys with 8. And 1 man with 6.5. So that's all the Monday timesheets. Let's check this out. That's okay. 8, 8, 8.5, 8, 0. That's okay. Chris M. Anthony, he had no time. We'd maybe want to ask about that. Or we would want to ask about that. Did Anthony come in? But if I remember right, I don't think he worked Friday either. Well, yeah, he did. But it was Monday. Either way. pretty sure he just didn't show up, but that's something, it's a red flag. It's a red zero is a red flag. Okay, the next day is Tuesday. We have 4 timesheets. We have the Ocean Breeze lots 220s. And we have Matt, Chris, Leslie, and Reggie with 8. Matt, Chris, Leslie, and Reggie. Matt, Chris, Reggie, and Leslie. Matt, Chris, Leslie, and Reggie. Nick, Fred. We have 2 Leslies for some reason. Leslie was on there twice. Nick and Fred and Theo with 8. Him with 6. Nick and Fred and Theo. Nick and Fred. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys with 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1 guy with 7 hours. Okay, so that's good. The next sheet for Tuesday is Stuart Jett. We have Arasto, Leroy, and David with 3. Arasto, Leroy, and David with 3. Arasto, Leroy, and David with 3. We have KJ and Cooney with 8. KJ and Cooney with 8. Three guys with 3 and 2 guys with 8. Okay. The next timesheet for Tuesday is Lawnwood Hospital. No lunch, somebody wrote in here. 8.5 hours. We have 3 guys, Rosto, Leroy, and David with 5.5. Rosto, Leroy, and David, Lawnwood Hospital, 5.5. Rosto, Leroy, and David. And we had 3 guys with 8.5. Ruben, Ken, and Esteban. Ruben, Ken, and Esteban. So 6 guys, 3 with 8.5, 3 with 5.5. Okay, the next time sheet is Ivany, Kenny, Katie, and Rick with 8. Kenny Ansel, Rick Lavelle, and Katie Kepler. Okay, that's all the timesheets. Let's see what we got here. Sean with 0. Adam, that's good. 8, that's good. Chris didn't work for us then. Anthony didn't show up. Jay only had 7. So that all looks good. Hit save. Okay, so as I spoke earlier, this Tuesday time would be put in on Wednesday. Wednesday is the day that the information is all sent over to the accountant so they can prepare the PDF files with the paychecks on them, with the payroll reports, and with the payroll tax report and the payroll tax payment. So once Tuesday's time is entered, And before it is sent to the accountant, we go back over to the sum sheet and we go through again and just go employee by employee. What I like to do is just print this sheet out and get it in front of me. And the way you do that with this spreadsheet is go up here to page preview, and you can see that the sheet is all ready to print. You hit file, print, and this is page 1 of 12. So when this print box opens up, we're spinning. Come on. There we go. Pick the correct printer, which it's on it right now, and you would want to pick page 1. Oops. You don't want to ever really print all 12 pages. But you'd hit page 1 and you'd hit print, and you'd print that out, and it would be in your hand where you could look at it and write on it and touch it and feel it. For myself, I just find that a whole lot better. And pull the timesheets out and compare and look and make sure where there's any zeros that we haven't entered any incorrect data or forgotten someone. And so we just go through it and we go, we look for the zeros is what I look for, or anything that's less than 8, and make sure that they didn't work. And probably the best thing to do, which I don't do, but probably what I should do, is when you're going through each day's timesheets and write it down, why there's a 0, why, and that way you can just go back and look through the timesheets and go, okay, here it is, it rained that day, or they didn't come to work. Okay, so this all looks good. Pretty sure I remember it rained that day, and okay, so this all looks good. So the next thing, once you verify that all the time is in there and that all the zeros are okay, and that any of the numbers that are less than 8 are okay, and that no time has been missed, we go over here to the weekly tab, and this sheet here also needs to freeze. What I like to do is to get this sheet up right here, and then right here, go to window and hit freeze, and that shows me what we need to do now is fix the overtime hours. So you can see in the whatever color this is, salmon, pink, whatever it is, these colored boxes show us the amount of overtime. Well, we have to tell the accountant what jobs this overtime was on. So when they send us the payroll reports and we put the information into QuickBooks, the overtime hours are charged to the correct jobs. So that all is put over here in this overtime hours area. And I'm going to make this just a little smaller so we can see everything. As you can see, there's already hours in here. Well, these hours are from last week, so all of this needs to be erased. So you can either just get on this box right here and hold down your left mouse button and then move your mouse over and down till you get all of them highlighted, and then just hit backspace. Or you could just go by each one, go to each one and hit backspace. But go down here and make sure it's at 0. When all of these are correct, you'll have the same amount here as you have here. So when we have all this information incorrect here, we'll have 37.5. The first person that we have with overtime is we have Esteban with a half an hour overtime. So we need to figure out where Esteban worked a half an hour overtime, the best place to do that is on your sum sheet, and this is another reason why I like to have it printed out, is so you can look and see, okay, well, on Tuesday, Esteban worked Saturday, didn't work Wednesday, so on Tuesday he had a half an hour overtime. What job did he work a half an hour overtime on? Lawnwood. So we go back over here, and on Esteban's row we put 0.5. The next person who has overtime is Katie. Go over here and we see that Katie worked every day this week. He worked 8.5 hours on Saturday, so his overtime hours are going to come from Saturday. He made up the hour and a half that he lost here. Well, he made up a half an hour of it on Saturday, a half hour there and a half hour there. But on Saturday, Katie worked at Ocean Breeze lots 220 through 234. So we're going to go back here, and we see we don't have that job up here, so we need to type it in. We're going to type it in up here, Ocean Breeze, or OB lots 220 through 234. That's probably enough for the accountant to figure that out. And we'll put 8 hours across from Katie's name and under the Ocean Breeze lots 220 row. The next person is Rich. He had a half an hour. That was on Monday. And on Monday, Rich worked at Ivany. So Ivany is right here. It's already in here. So 0.5. The next one is Ruben. Ruben had 8 hours. Ruben also worked Saturday, and on Saturday Ruben he worked 6 hours at Nobile and 2 hours at Zarinsky. Okay, Zarinsky's in here, so we'll put the 2 hours on Zarinsky, and we need to add Nobile. We'll put that right here. Noble Shoes, and he had 6 hours there. Double check that, make sure that that is correct. 6 there and 2 there, okay. The next person who had overtime was Arasto. He also worked Saturday. And Arasto on Saturday worked over at the lots 220. So lots 220, Arasto. You'll notice when you click on a cell here that the row number gets highlighted to help you keep from making mistakes. He had 7. Theo had 7 hours, probably the same deal, but let's see. He worked Saturday, and Saturday Theo was at the lots. Whoops. 7. And the next person was Chris, had 6.5. Chris also worked Saturday, and Chris also worked on the lots, so be 6.5. And so if we did this right, these two numbers should match, and they do. If we didn't do it right, this number would not match that number, and we need to figure out what we did right. Okay, so then that's all that we have to do on that. For overtime purposes. Now, sometimes employees may ask for a little loan of 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks or whatever, and if let's say that Matt borrowed $100 and you agreed, okay, you take 25 out for the next 4 weeks, you put in here loan 25. And then maybe down here at the bottom you might want to put, for your own notes, Matt, loan 125 per week. You can write in any of these boxes that are yellow, you can write in. This health insurance stuff, it changes, once a year it changes, and so that's what these notes are. If you needed more room, you could always do this 16 foot, maybe just put HI. You can put a note in the email, HI. You let the accountant know HI's health insurance, if you needed this box, if you needed to put information in there. But there shouldn't be too much of that stuff that goes on. Occasionally there's some loans, occasionally, probably more often than there should be. So we'll get rid of this. There are no loans this week, but just wanted to go over that. That's where that information would go. So this is ready to send to the accountant. I guess the other thing to go over would be our pay rate here, Clay and Mines. That is derived from this number, or this number actually. We won't worry about that right now. And like I said, this is ready to go to the accountant. So what else? Is there anything else? You see everything's added up over here across the row. Ruben's overtime hours matched. The job names are down here for the accountant. Up here it says if employee names are rearranged on the sum sheet, then the rate of pay on this sheet must also be adjusted so that each employee has the correct pay rate. Okay. What does that mean? Well, let's say that you wanted to put this back into alphabetical order next week. I'm going to hit save here. And you would do that by going over here to this sheet, because you can't change any names on any of the sheets. All the names, employee names, are over here. But if you change a name over here, you have to make sure that their pay rate is correct over here. So let's say that, okay, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to put Katie's name down here for a second. We have B, H, so Fred would go up here, right? Now you would want to do this on a blank timesheet. This is not a good time to do this because we've already entered everybody's time, and by putting Fred up here, now his time's over here where Katie's was, etc. But if you put Fred up here, the point I want to make, if you put Fred up here, well, now his pay rate is shown there, and like if you put Katie in here, well, his pay rate is there, and they're wrong. So they would need to be fixed. That's the point I'm trying to make here. Let me undo all of this. I got this back right. Appears I do. Yep. But if you were to rearrange this alphabetically, which it is a lot better when it's all in alphabetical order because everything sent over from the accountant is in alphabetical order, you would want to do that at the start of the pay week. Like on Thursday when you do Wednesday's time and you're starting a fresh new timesheet, that's when you would want to fix this. You would want to get everything at 0 here so no time is entered on any of these days, because if you go switching people's names around on here after you've already entered, let's say that you decide you want to do this on a Friday afternoon or something, get the timesheet in alphabetical order, and you already have Wednesday and Thursday's time in, and you put Kepler down here under Jacobs, and Jacobs up here where Hunter was, and Hunter where Kepler was, and Kenneth Martin Jr. over here, and this guy moved over here, well then all their pay rates are going to be, not only are all their pay rates going to be wrong, but all of their time is going to be in the wrong spots on the 2 days that you put the time in on. Like on Wednesday, the time that you had where you moved Fred up here, well, that was Katie's time, and the job that Katie worked on. So the point is to put the names in alphabetical order. You want to make sure you're starting with a blank timesheet, like at the start of a pay week, or take all the time out and re-put it all back in. So to send this to the accountant, there's 2 sheets that go to the accountant as previously explained. You have the weekly sheet and the weekly 2 sheet. So if we click on the weekly tab and we go up here to page preview, what we want to do is save these as PDF files. We have page 3 and we have page 4. They're all ready to go. So we go up here to File, we go to Export as PDF, we click Pages, and we put in 3-4, pages 3 and 4. We hit Export. For right now, we just save it to the desktop. You know, if it clicks up on somewhere else, you're going to want to find Desktop and save it to the desktop and hit Save. And after it gets done spinning, it's all done, and you can close this spreadsheet. We're done with it. Close that, close that, and right here is the file we just saved, the PDF file to send to the accountant. I always like to open it up and review it. Can close that, and we can zoom right there and just look at it one more time. I like to look at it with the summary sheet in my hand and just make sure everybody's hours are good one last time, and that the total hours match what's on the summary sheet. Like I said, there's really nothing to do to this sheet. You don't have to really even worry about it. It's automatically done. So everything looks good. So then we would go over to the email, which is not open, and we would email it to the accountant, and she would then send back to us 3 files. And I'll go into Wanda's computer and show you the 3 files. This will take a second to open up, or longer. Okay, there's a viewer that I can use to access Wanda's computer. And this information is all explained in another video, but under timesheets and in 2019, these are the reports that are sent to us. We get the payroll reports, we get the paychecks to print, and we get a what I call an EFTPS file, which basically shows how much payroll taxes were sent over to the government to meet our payroll tax obligation for unemployment and for the money that was taken out of the employees' checks for federal withholding and for Social Security and Medicare. And this would have been the week that we just completed. It's 2 days past, to be the Friday of that week, the 21st. And if we go up here like to Esteban, we see that he had that 40 hours in that half an hour. Nick had the 37 hours. Everybody's times match. And what I like to do is, before I print the paychecks, is, let me open this back up over here. Is I like to verify that these amounts, the gross amount, matches what's on the payroll report. 652. Nick Bickman, well, he had a different pay rate then, so that's why that's off. David had a different pay rate too, that's why that's off, but the hours are right. But anyway, I like to go through that and make sure that that's correct. Make sure that those match, because if they don't match, then there's a problem. The account's made a problem somewhere, and I've only found it once where there was a problem, but it's a good thing to do. Just make sure this matches. That way you know that the accountant has done it correct and got the correct hours in for the guys, and hasn't made a typo and given a guy 24 hours instead of 42 hours, or 15 hours instead of 17 hours, or whatever. But that's the payroll report. The other part of the payroll report is this bottom section. Oops. And some of this has gone over, a lot of this has gone over in the other video. But this bottom section, where this is the information that comes from page 2 of what we sent the accountant. They take all this information, the overtime, or I'm sorry, they actually take this information, the overtime, and these hours here. Like Esteban had 32 hours on Ocean Breeze 220, 8.5 hours at Lawnwood for 40.5, and we told her that the half an hour came from Lawnwood, so she has the 32 hours there at his pay rate, and 8 hours at Lawnwood, and a half an hour at overtime rate for Lawnwood. And that information is entered into QuickBooks, and this stuff is all in another video. So that's the payroll reports. We go back over here. These are the paychecks. This is also on another video. That's 2018, 2019. Okay, 321. These would have been the paychecks, and this is what's used to print the paychecks. You print this, use this file, and it prints right on the paychecks. And the last one is the EFTPS, which this would have been the 26th for that. The pay week, actually the pay period is not right on here, but there's been 26, and this is the amount that was sent to the United States Treasury, and it's all broken down as to the different amounts that were sent, etc. And let's see what else. We can close that. I guess that's it. It's sent off to the accountant. The accountant, has sent back the files. We check the files and make sure that they all match for hours, and the paychecks can be printed, and all the information can be entered into the QuickBooks. And that, as I said earlier, all of that is explained in another video. And so that wraps this up.